a name for himself this year, because it was quite obvious even from the first round of the National League in Killarney that this guy had serious pace, and it was going to take a while to live with him. It's going to be very, very hard to stop him, and I think it's probably more enjoyable for players to play that game as well. Whether it gives them a better chance of beating Dublin or limiting Dublin or whatever, that's a moot point. They did ask questions of Dublin in the league, and Donegal were very, very unlucky in the league, and we've seen since their quality in the Ulster Championship. But I'm sure the players are probably approaching games with a lot more enthusiasm now that they are playing that particular way. And that's natural as well. We have the same down here in Kerry, where an injection of fresh young blood tends to energise things as well, But it is a big ask. You mentioned Paddy McBrearty being missing. He's he caused Dublin trouble in the league. He would have caused them trouble, I'm sure, were he out on Saturday evening as well. He is a big loss. But they still have certain players in form, and they have a certain amount of unknown quantities coming into Croke Park this weekend.
Is he a bigger loss against Dublin than any other side when you look at the way Dublin can swarm back at times? And if you're going to get opportunities, quite often they're 35, 40 metres out. You need players who are confident in that sort of situation and kick those type of scores. And Paddy McBrearty is probably one of the best in the country at it.
Yeah, you'll see it probably in the decision making. We know Michael Murphy will make the right decision on the ball, but they could do with another player of similar, I suppose, decision making abilities inside there. When you mentioned the heat coming on, 2 or 3 lads swarming around you, McBrearty doesn't tend to give it up that easily. Michael Murphy certainly won't. The lads that they have around there, Oran McNeill is quite comfortable. Kieran Thompson, Jimmy Brennan is showing up well this year. But because there's a few young lads there, their decision making mightn't be as good as it normally would be when intensity like Dublin comes at you. And in that regard, McBrearty is a big loss, just aside from the scoring ability alone.
Turlough O'Brien, the Carlow manager, is on the line as well. Evening, Turlough.
Good evening. How are you?
Not too bad. We'll get on to the teams that you faced in this year's championship in just a little while, but we're talking Dublin-Donegal at the moment, and it's hard to know what to make of Dublin yet again as they strolled through the Leinster Championship. Is this a game where Jim Gavin will essentially just have to make sure he's picked the right team, because he has so many options now, particularly in around that midfield area, half-back line with Keane O'Sullivan right? What's if you were coming up against Dublin, what's the most fearful Dublin midfield?
Oh God! Look, I suppose Dublin has so many options all over the park. It's scary to think the options actually have, and they haven't really been tested this year, and I don't know how well they're going compared to previous years. But Brian Fenton is certainly probably the outstanding midfielder in the country at the moment. James McCarthy midfield, I like him in midfield as well. Very mobile as well, covers the ground very, very well. Like Dara McCauley, they have a lot of options, and I suppose the big issue now is for Donegal really is the loss of Paddy McBrearty. Really, I think he's a huge loss to them. Big part of their team, one of the best score getters in the country, and replacing something like him won't be easy, considering with Dublin. But look, having said that, it's a great opportunity. These Super 8s, you've got 3 bites of the cherry for these teams now, and I'm sure they're all relishing the thoughts of the next 3 weeks with these games coming up, and all the teams in both groups will feel they have really a good opportunity to progress to the semi-final.
What would you do, Turlough, if you had Michael Murphy in your team and you're going up against Dublin, where you know if you put him out in the middle of the park, he can win good quality ball for you there and he can distribute it well? But also then with Paddy McBrearty out, you need somebody who can get involved in forward play, who can keep hold of possession if you do win at midfield, that it's not coming straight back at you again. In many ways, still Donegal need 2 Michael Murphys. Where do you think he can do most damage against Dublin?
Look, I suppose it's 6-1, half dozen euro. You need him in both places, but I think you have to really be competitive in midfield. And I think that's the first thing for anything coming against Dublin. You've got to turn enough ball in midfield to create attacking chances. If Michael Murphy's inside the edge of the square and Donegal are struggling in midfield, he's not going to be much use to them in there. So it's difficult to call, and it's probably his best position is in a full forward line, I'd say. But it's horses for courses, and I'd like to see him play midfield against Dublin, to be honest with you.
Yeah. The challenge then facing Declan Bonner, and we touched on the big scores that they've racked up during the Ulster Championship on the way to winning that. You want to maintain that attacking flair and the freedom that the players have, but do you need a separate game plan for Dublin? Do you need to focus really on their kickouts, try something totally different, to just somehow unnerve this Dublin team? Is that even possible?
Absolutely. Well, the kick-out strategies are massive in the game now, and it's not just their own kick-out, it's the opposition kick-out. What are you going to do in the opposition kick-out? And, I think pressing a team on the kick-out can be very, very taxing on the team as well. So it's a balance of trying to get that right. You mightn't press all the time. You might have to give it up sometimes and just get your structure right at the back. It's really, the team itself will really, I suppose, will develop that over the course of the championship, what way they're going to approach that. Cluxton is probably the best in the business with the kick-outs, so it's really difficult to, I suppose, to put off his game. But we had quite a bit of success against him last year, doing it zonally against them, and we won quite a few of their kick-outs, so it is possible to do it. It is possible to do it, but it's a high intense game when you're trying to do that against Dublin, because you're so quick with the kick-outs as well.
Yeah.
And you've got to.
Can you describe that then? What you do when you're trying to attack their kick-outs zonally?
Well, we would have played with be five up front, and we would split the defenders between us, and our five forwards would work very, very hard to close down the space, to close down the options. Usually Cluxton likes to chip the ball into space to someone to run onto it, so it's to be able to fill in those pockets and to cover maybe two players at a time. How players move is very, very important. How they can upset the goalkeepers to kick the ball out. All those things come to play, and if you can distract them at all, it's a big help,
Yeah. Dara, do we obsess too much about Stephen Cluxton's kickouts, or are they actually just that important that if you're not getting some sort of parity or not upsetting Dublin in some way there, you're just simply not going to win the game?
We obsess about them for good reason. Number one, because they're so goddamn good. Number two, because on the rare occasions when they do get cracked, that the profits are huge. Dublin will give you a chance. If you're good enough to take the chances against them. It just so happens in the last couple of years, no team has been, really good enough to force it over the line. But Dublin will give you chances. They will give you a small bit of oxygen, a small bit of hope. We saw that with Kerry the year before last, where the period before half-time where they did, when Cluxton had a few wobbles. But what's rarely commented on is how he turned it around in the second half, and his kicking was just impeccable again. We saw it in the All-Ireland final against Mayo a number of years ago, where they did put a bit of a squeeze in him, and he just recovers so well. Even mistakes, the rare mistakes, they don't seem to upset him that much, And Turlough mentioned there, it is really, really hard work trying to do that all the time. It takes huge levels of concentration. I think Kerry have learned the hard way, and most teams have learned the hard way, that in order to try and beat Dublin, I'm not saying in order to beat them, in order to try and beat them, you have to play without fear. You have to play your own game. Galway did a bit of it there in the league final this year as well. You have to go for it. You have no other choice, and the day will come where that will be enough to get your team over the line against Dublin. It just so happens that they are really, really good at decision making from number one out, but they do give you chances. They will give teams chances in this Super 8 group as well, and they will give Donegal chances the next day. They're not a team that are absolutely ruthless, that choke the life out of you. They play their game. They just happen to play it at a higher level and a better level than most other teams around them.
Right, so when you're saying that they give you chances, is there a particular part of the pitch that teams can target to take advantage of that?
You can answer that very quickly by saying, as Turlough did say, look, let's just put the squeeze up, put the bodies up. But all keepers, we see it with Shane Murphy even down in Kerry, they're going to clear the body, the forest of bodies out there. And with a 70 or 80 yard kick, Cluxton did it, as far back as 6 years ago against Kerry, where he put Diarmuid Connolly in for a score from a kick out that just cleared everybody on the Kerry team that day. And Tomás O'Shea in his last game frantically chasing back, trying to catch his coattails. Goalkeepers, all goalkeepers, not just Cluxton, have that sense now when they know when they're being squeezed, and they'll just they're automatically thinking, how do I get it over there? And most goalkeepers left in this year's championship have that in their armoury, where they have that 80-yard accurate foot pass as well. Just Cluxton is the original of the species at the moment, and you can do that. But if every now and then, and Kerry, as I say, just before half time a number of years ago, did it, where Paul Gainey kind of, as Turlough mentioned, played zonally, pretended not to be interested in the game, and all of a sudden he's intercepting a kick out, and the I suppose the dividend from that is huge when it does happen, but it's easier said than done.
So that is Dublin against Donegal. That's the 7 o'clock throw-in on Saturday evening. It's a 5 o'clock start for Roscommon against Tyrone at Croke Park. Turlough, you've come up against Tyrone this season. Mickey Hart, their backroom team, their style of play took an awful lot of stick ahead of the championship and around the championship, and they were beaten in Ulster from within, from Sean Kavanagh, from people who played as part of it, feeling that it was too defensive. They weren't giving their attacking players a chance. What was your main takeaway from when Carlow played Tyrone earlier in the season?
Well, first off, I think there's been a lot of talk about Tyrone, not being the force that they were, and let's not forget that they were going for 3 in a row in Ulster this year, and they underperformed against Monaghan in the first round. But to me, a Tyrone team it's a really polished team. They're probably getting confidence back now to get them run through the qualifiers again, which they're very good at. But they move the ball so very well. They're brilliant in to move the ball. Fantastic, nearly telepathic understanding between them. Really, certainly in my experience looking at Tyrone over the last number of years and when we play them, that they all buy into the system. They all play for the team. There's very few egos in the team, and that's been one of their hallmarks down the years, is that their egos have been, I suppose, put in second place, and the team had always come first with them, and that was one of the reasons, I suppose, we're all surprised maybe with Sean Cavanagh's comments there this year about their style of play, but I think their ability to move the ball quickly, they're, again, an Ulster team. They're very, very organised and structured as well, and again, coming back to goalkeepers, that Morgan in the goal is very, very good for him as well with his kick-outs. So, I think they have a lot of promising forward talent there at the moment. Conor McAliskey is playing very well, and Sludden is a lovely player to watch. He's a joy to watch. He reminds me of Richie Hogan and hurling. It's just so smooth. He's a top mover, so he is. So I think if they have a weakness for me, maybe it might be that they don't have really a dominant midfield. Colin Kavanagh plays a sweeper role very, very well. Plays it brilliantly, actually. But they don't seem to have a regular partner for him in the middle of the field, and that might be an issue in the Super 8s for them,
Yeah, particularly Dara coming up against Roscommon, who in Enda Smith, when he plays in and around the midfield, and he has got everything to his game at the moment with the couple of goals he scored last weekend as well in the final round of the qualifiers. He has the ability, as we saw in last year's Connacht final, to go and dominate a game like this.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. He's a talented footballer, but I'm sure what Kevin McStay will be saying to him this week is go on and do it again and again and again, and achieve that level of consistency that that the great players have. And that's probably a harsh enough comment on the lad, but he is a beautiful footballer, very balanced, very two-sided. For a big man, he can get around the place as well. But I'm sure he's been told, to achieve a level of consistency. He expected more from Roscommon the second day, and they were just absolutely blitzed, and that was because so many players underperformed. Again, kickouts were a big issue there, and all those things. I mean, Kevin McStay said ahead of the Armagh game the last day that they were very much at a crossroads, that this was a big game for them, because if you look at it, they had lost to Galway, and if were they to lose that game the last day, it wouldn't have been a hugely successful season despite promotion and all that from Division 2. They're an ambitious team, and they have ambitions for themselves, and I think they're going to find it tough against Tyrone the next day. In terms of Tyrone, we just don't know where they're at because of their last game. We're scratching our heads down here in Kerry, even in terms of what kind of a barometer are Cork for anybody these days, because it was just such a strange performance from Cork the last day that we just don't know where Tyrone are. But Roscommon are an ambitious team. They'll be back up in Division 1 next year playing. They found out a short while ago that they weren't good enough to hold their grip in Division 1, and they probably are more prepared for it this time. But that will be all predicated on the likes of Enda Smith, Kieran Morton, these lads becoming consistent performers. When they're good, when they go high, when they hit the heights, they go really high, but they can disappear for periods of a game as well, and that's something that they're going to have to address.
The game against Armagh, Turlough, was one of the more exciting championship games we've seen this year. Both teams went hell for leather. There was some brilliant scores in the game. It wasn't your knockout stage championship football you expect, which is quite attritional, and Kevin McStay has spoken about that, how he feels that Roscommon don't have the physical makeup to play at 13 men behind the ball game. They're not the biggest team. Are Tyrone physically, are they a big powerful force that maybe just will have that edge on Roscommon from what you've seen? Is this quite an abrasive Tyrone team when you think back to the great Tyrone teams of a decade ago?
I wouldn't say they're as abrasive as previous teams Tyrone have put out, but they are a very physical, very formidable team physically. They all the teams that's in the champ, are anyway. But their half-back in particular is really talented, I think, and Tyrone McCann is back there. But Frank Burns has been very impressive centre back for them. Very, very impressive. He's got a lot of scores from as well. P.D. Archer, wing back, he's just a class act, and Michael McKieran's been a big help to him as well, But I think Tyrone, their attacking threat coming from deep is very, very strong. I don't think Armagh was as strong. I think Roscommon are trying to play, fifth-man football, if you like, and they look really, really good going forward and that. But again, they're vulnerable at the back, as a result. And a team like Tyrone will exploit that, in my opinion. I think they'll be really ready for that, and they'll hit them hard and fast. And I think they could get a lot of scores against them.
Yeah, so that'll get the Super 8s underway at 5 o'clock on Saturday. The Sunday doubleheader then starts with Kildare against Monaghan. And Turlough, you know what it takes to beat Kildare. It just feels now, looking at Kildare over the last couple of weeks and the manner of the win over Fermanagh and the victory over Mayo, that this is a totally different group of players.
Well, it's not much of a different group of players. It's more or less the same team that played against us, But certainly, I suppose, our performance against Kildare that day was nearly a perfect performance from our perspective. Everything went right for us in the day. We had no white that day, and we were really, really up for the game. We were very confident coming into the game. Maybe Kildare underestimated us a little bit. But having said that, I think we ran out comfortable winners in that game, and if it had gone on any longer, I think we would have won by more. So where are Kildare at? They've had a good run through the qualifiers. I suppose the Newbridge venue thing was a big galvanising thing for them. They actually needed something to hang their hat on, and I think that was it, and it galvanised them. They struggled over Longford too. So I don't think they're maybe the team that people are talking up to be now at the moment. They have a lot of very, very good individual talent and a superbly conditioned team. They can cover the ground, so they can. They have some really top talented players, but they're not consistent, in my opinion, and that comes back to haunt them time after time. And I just feel that they're very open at the back. I mean, we exploited that very, very well in that opening round of the championship, and when teams run at them, I think they struggle with that. They're attacking from the back as well. Because they're attacking from the back, then they leave themselves wide open as well. There's a certain naivety about Kildare, I think. I suppose they always feel they can win the Leinster Championship, maybe and go further, and they haven't really followed through on that. I mean, they played second fiddle in Leinster to Dublin, obviously the great Dublin team, but there's something that just seems to be missing in Kildare. I don't know what it is. They have all the talents, and you'd love to see them really progress because they can play some fantastic football when they're on song, as they did against Mayo, and Fermanagh, and it's hard to know. I just think they'll find it difficult in the Super 8 because I think that Monaghan will have their measure. Monaghan will be very strong defensively and have a lot of attacking strength as well. And then they play Galway in Newbridge, and Galway beat them down there in the league, and I think the way Galway are set up, Kildare will find it very hard to break them down.
Yeah, so, Dara, your thoughts on Kildare then? The possible naivety defensively, they conceded 18 points against Fermanagh, 19 points against Mayo. The positives are, you look at them, and as Turlough said, such a well-conditioned team, such powerful athletic runners who can transition the ball from back to forward really quickly. And they seem to be the team with all the momentum heading into the Super 8s.
That's the word. There comes a point in the season where a team gets a bit of wind in their sails, and that team at the moment, of all teams left, of the 8 teams, I'm not saying they're the best team, but I'm saying that in terms of momentum, in terms of self-belief, and I think of the weaknesses highlighted by Turlough there, a lot of them would be inside that space between the two ears. Yeah. And when that momentum comes, self-belief comes with that, and that's worth 2 or 3 points to a player like Neil Flynn, a young lad and Daniel Flynn, who we forget is so young as well, supremely talented footballers, and that's worth another couple of points to them. And especially in Croke Park, it's a footballers pitch, and there's no doubt some of those Kildare lads are exceptional footballers. Whatever weaknesses that we might have seen from them earlier on in the championship, and maybe in previous years even, they're based on, psychological stuff, I would say, just lack of self-belief or lack of, clarity in the way they want to play. I really do think they've caught a bit of a gust of wind at the moment, and it might carry them. It might carry them over this weekend. I think on paper, Monaghan are a better team, probably further down the road in terms of their development and all that, but I just think Kildare have that momentum at the moment, and that's sometimes, we saw it for Tipperary a number of years ago in football as well, sometimes you just catch that gale of wind at the right time of the year, and I think Kildare are there at the moment.
We're very tight on time, so Dara, just briefly, and we're going to look ahead to Kerry Galway a lot more over the next few days. Kerry, the young players have come in, they've injected this real pace, enthusiasm, energy around the forward line. The one question mark still is, you think back to Kerry in last year's All-Ireland semi-final replay against Mayo and the way their defence was taken apart. Is that what we're going to discover this weekend? Whether that Kerry defence has improved in line with their forward line?
It's one of the questions that's going to be answered. I think Kerry people are well aware, and in typical Kerry style, they'll probably be downplaying it. But Kerry are a bit better, I think, than they were last year. Again, the Cork situation is creating uncertainty because we don't actually know based on Cork's subsequent form. But there is definitely a lot more pace. There are 7 new players, and you ask the question, are they better than the 7 players that they're replacing or have replaced? And you'd have to say, I don't know if they're better and there's different quality, but they're pacier, and there's a lot of pace in that Kerry team at the moment. But the question marks will remain over the defence until, again, they put consistent performances together. Don't forget, Kerry came into Croke Park last year in great form coming out of Munster as well. So we're exactly where we were last year, but with a few different names and a bit more pace and possibly a bit more self-belief. And, if the defence could hold up their side of the bargain, I think you'll see plenty forward talent.
And Turlough, on Galway, their record at Croke Park over the last 15, 16 years has been pretty atrocious, but this is the sort of day that can define your season, can define this group of players, that any question marks that hang over them, if you beat Kerry, they're pretty much answered. Absolutely, and I think this it's a new style of Galway team. Galway in the past would have been, would have been like Kerry, really, would have been aristocrats of football, played lovely football, and they've changed their style considerably the last 12 months or so, and they've become a very, very hard and physical, defensive sort of team, and I think they will make it very, very difficult for Kerry. I think they're very ambitious as well. I think they're not far off the mark now. I think there's some really super forwards as well. Shane Walsh there and Cormac are exceptional talented footballers. And if they get enough ball, they will cause problems. But I like the edge that's in Galway at the moment. I think they've really, really brought a cutting edge to it that they haven't had for a long, long time, and I think they've plenty of football in them to back that up. Great stuff. A lot to look forward to over the weekend. Turlough O'Brien, Dara, thanks a lot for taking the call. No problem. And we'll have reporters at all the weekend's Super 8 games, analysis as well on our Saturday panel. So lots more build-up to come to those 4 games. Up next, though, we're talking World Cup once again with Pat Nevin.
GAA on Off the Ball. Brought to you by the Boyle Sports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store. News Talk Breakfast. I have to say to you, Barbara, as a man, this is why we spend so much time in the pub chewing the fat and meeting the lads. It's important for us